Look, let's start with the facts, just raw history. Homo sapiens, our species, has existed for at least 200,000 years. At least, right? We hunted, gathered, migrated. We made tools, built fires, painted on cave walls. Then, then something shifted. Around 10,000 BC, we started farming, domesticating crops, settling into villages. But even then, we weren't quote unquote civilized. We didn't have nations yet, no writing, no laws. That comes way later, around 3000 BC. That's when we start seeing kings, cities, wars, priests, taxes. That's when we started writing things down. So here's the question. Why does the Bible start around 3000 BC? Why does the creation story place humanity's origin around 5 to 6,000 years ago? Because it's not talking about our bodies, it's talking about our minds. It's not telling us when we were created, it's telling us when we were activated, when we finally received spirit. Something happened around that time. Not a flood of water, but a flood of consciousness. We didn't just survive, we began to remember. We named things, drew lines, made rules, and somewhere in that shift, we met God. Not because he just showed up, but because we were finally able to hear him. That's what creationism was really pointing to. Not the day our hearts started beating, but the day our souls woke up. In the beginning was the Word. That's how the book of John opens. And whether you believe in God or not, that sentence is terrifyingly accurate because the Word wasn't just speech, it was logos, a Greek idea that means logic, reason, structure, the force that shapes elements into tangible things. The moment we could speak, we could control, we could remember, we could deceive, and we could worship. Think about it. Language gave us names. Names gave us categories. Categories gave us hierarchy. Now you're no longer just a person and you're a king or a slave or a priest or a heathen. We started speaking truth, but also started speaking lies. We created myths and turned them into mandates. And the world changed forever. That's what the tree of knowledge symbolizes. Not sin, not sex, but self awareness. The serpent wasn't selling an apple, he was selling autonomy. And once we ate, we couldn't go back. The fall wasn't a punishment, it was a side effect. Well, actually, yeah, it feels a lot more like punishment, but we didn't get kicked out of the garden for being evil. We got kicked out because we understood. Once you name death, you fear it. Once you know shame, you hide. Once you define God, you make rules about him and then you weaponize those rules, right? That's what we've done as humanity. Look, in the beginning was the word. And ever since, we've been trying to figure out what it meant and how to live in a world where every word can both bless and destroy. Here's what people forget. For most of 200 to 300,000 years that humans have existed, we were in Eden. Not a literal garden, but a way of being, a way of life, tribal, communal, naked, and free. Living with the land, not trying to own it. No kings, no prisons, no banks, just rhythm, breath, survival, nature, God. We wondered, we shared, we remembered the stars. That was Eden. Then came the bite. Not from an apple, but from an idea. The idea that we could know what only God knew. Good and evil, power and hierarchy, control and consequence. That moment is the turning point in Genesis, but it's also the turning point in human history. Because what happens right after Eden? Cain kills Abel and builds the first city, right? That's not a coincidence. The Bible places the first city right after the first murder. Right after the first I want what you have moment. And archaeologists agree. The first cities, like Eridu and Uruk in Mesopotamia, pop up around 3500 BC. The same timeline the Bible starts as genealogies. So maybe Eden wasn't some mythic paradise in the clouds. Maybe it was real and we left it. Not because we had to, but because we wanted more. Foolishly wanted more than Eden. We wanted walls, we wanted temples, we wanted kings. We wanted to be gods. And ever since, we've been living in a world built after the fall. We call it civilization, but ask yourself, what did we civilize? We built hierarchy, not harmony. We learned how to dominate before we learned how to heal. We wrote laws before we taught love. The oldest records of writings are literally taxes. We chose structure over spirit, efficiency over love for our fellow human, empire over the Garden of Eden. And the kicker, we thought that it was progress. We still think it's progress, but we didn't rise. We reorganized the fall because we fallen, goddammit. We didn't evolve past Eden. We walked away from it. And now some of us are trying to code our way back through therapy, through memory, through spirit, through faith. But the original trauma, the shame, the separation, the ego, that's still in our DNA. So when I say we bit the fruit, we became aware, and that awareness came with a major cost. The burden of knowing, the burden of choosing, the burden of having to live with what we now know. And that's the real story of Eden. You ever notice how the Bible begins twice? Right? First with Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then again with John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now we have two beginnings. One where God creates the universe, and another where God becomes language. That second one, that's the fall. That's the moment we became something new. What is the word if not structure, if not naming, ordering, judging? The tree of knowledge gave us good and evil. The word gave us the ability to say it out loud. Before the word, we were wild, innocent, unwritten. After the word, we got law, we got scripture, we got story. And right around 3000 BC, when the first cities rise in Sumer and Egypt, guess what else shows up? Writing, cuneiform, hieroglyphs. The word showed up. Inconspicuously, right around when creationism says the world started, about 5,000 years ago. Human memory stopped living in bodies and started living in bricks, scrolls, tablets. The garden ends, civilization begins. And that's the biblical paradox most people miss. The Bible isn't just a record of salvation, it's a timeline of falling. Not just Adam, not just Cain, but all of us, building cities, naming enemies, traded intimacy for empire, imperialism, the need to have more, this insatiable greed to own as much as possible.